Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cosmic Metamorphosis. My name is Kat. Thank you, my family, for tuning in today. I'm trying to get these videos done and transcribing done and hopefully get a little bit more caught up. So this is my second video today for you guys. So hopefully you'll get another one. Yeah, you'll get one tonight. Yeah, which by the time you get this, it'll already be out, and we'll get this done for the weekend. Anyway, today we'll jump right into it, and we're going to do Alex Collier's webinar 187 from July 14th of this year. He says, "Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and spending your Friday evening or Saturday morning here with us. We truly do appreciate you, and we do appreciate your support. I want to thank everyone for the wonderful birthday wishes. It's great to be 49, he says once again. Haha, and he laughs. And we'll go from there. He says, no, seriously, it means a lot. I typically don't celebrate my birthdays. He says, because growing up as a kid, there were so many of us, and it was usually focused on the little ones. And it's just what it is. He says, but anyways, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the kind wishes. And he says, Merlin made out like a bandit, by the way. He says, for my birthday. He says, of course, he gets spoiled every day. Sometimes the cats. Sometimes, he says. We have a lot of ground to cover today, and it's going to be a mishmash because I try, he says, to keep things organic, because I don't like reading everything for you. He says it bothers me. I feel like I need to keep it real time, and you have my intention, etc. He says, we live in a time where there's so much going on, and there are at least 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 different narratives that are going on all the time now. And they all contradict each other in some ways. And in other ways, there's little pieces where they sort of connect, and I realize how confusing it can be. And it's designed to be confusing. You think that the white hats would keep things real simple and keep it very direct. He says they're not. You would think the black hats would continue to lie and deceive, and that's exactly what they're doing, okay? And he laughs. He says, then you have your medias, which they are not quite sure what to do anymore because all of their narratives have collapsed. Yet Mockingbird, the agencies, the pharmaceutical companies, all these people are being blackmailed one way or another. They have to continue to do their narratives in order to remain alive. So, it says, because we're at that place now where we are coming to the crescendo. And what I mean by that is a very severe, very obvious tipping point for everything. Now, this is not just the United States, this is global, and there's a tremendous amount of fear being run by the deep state, being run by the global cabal, by the dark Illuminati. Tremendous amount of fear because they've lost control, and they know it, and they're going to play their cards. Now, what's really scaring them is their overlords, who are off-worlders, are no longer there to tell them what to do. They're having to make the decisions themselves, and they're not used to that. They're not used to making the decisions for themselves. Plus, they're being attacked. They've lost some of their own resources. They've found themselves under investigation. Some of them have already been removed and find themselves in new quarters in either Greenland, the military prison in Greenland, and or Guantanamo or Diego Garcia Island. So there are multiple places they could be at this moment. Those who have been captured, he says. So they're running scared. Their underlings are running because they realize they no longer have the protection, and it's already too late to make deals. So it's an extremely confusing time, and if you can go back to some of the very early webinars in 2016 going into 2017, I shared with you that they had just realized back then that they were losing, and they've never been in this position. They hadn't been in this position for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and they were going to throw everything against the wall. Everything to try and make it stick so that they could regain control. If you go back to those early ones, you'll hear me say that. Well, this is what it looks like when they have thrown everything against the wall and they're still losing. This is what it looks like. And what we're seeing is a very, very old ancient control system that was brought to Earth specifically to capture humanity. And it started with the Anunnaki, specifically Enlil. When his brother left, he implemented this entire platform. And then when they took off, those that were left behind, begrudgingly left behind, stayed. And in order to maintain their anonymity, I can't talk, managed to maintain the system. It says then, there was another group that came in from Orion, the reptilian groups, then the Tao, which Elena calls the Nabu. They also came in, and many other little groups, pirate groups came in that specialized in very specific things, also came in to where we've had this mess, this disaster. He says, I mean, it's a miracle humanity has managed to get as far as it has. And then comes the intervention, and we'll cover that. But there's some things I want to talk about, okay? About this. It says one of the topics here is the disclosure of religions. And he kind of chuckles. He says, 30 years ago, this was a very dangerous topic to talk about. I remember the first time I did Art Bell, and I thought that was as vanilla as I could possibly be. And ladies and gentlemen, you can't believe the hate mail I got. You know, it was vicious. He says, my first, second death threats came after that. He said, one of them I was watching and it literally disappeared off my computer. The email just says, the email just dissolved. He says that was the first time, and I saw one that could do that, and I realized that was an intelligence agency software program. He says the other one stuck around, and I gave it to authorities, so this was a very difficult subject to breach with people. Fortunately, we've had other speakers, other researchers that have come forward, and it seems like more and more people are willing to approach this subject and allow us to talk about it, or at least present the information. And I'm referring to Dr. Michael Salla and an interview Elena Denon did. I believe the woman's name is, she said a different name, but it was Karina Pataki. But there are so many books now are being published that are referring to the translations of the ancient texts and how they were altered and changed. Dr. Sala's last interview with a gentleman I watched yesterday was simply outstanding. And you know, if you can remember what I told you, Dr. Sala's work, that this would all become historical documents. Michael and Angelica, I just want to tell you how proud I am of you and the work that you're doing. Paul Wallace, he says, thank you. I'm so proud of the work you're doing. Your interview with Mr. Wallace is just phenomenal, okay? It really does nail it, and it brings in all the other pieces that have been out there. And ladies and gentlemen, it's really important that you spend some time on that, because there's source, and then there's the little gods. There's source, and then there's the little gods, okay? I've shared a lot of this with you guys 30 years ago. Yeah, and so that, let's see. So I think it's under Dr. Michael Sala's YouTube page, and it's called How Anunnaki History Influenced the Bible and What It Means Today. I'll try and remember to put the link. He says, and it's really nice to see this information now coming to the forefront. The great late Jordan Maxwell was phenomenal with his information about the extraterrestrial gods posing as creators, creators of all that is. They're not and never will be. He said Bob Dean talked about some of this stuff. Many, many others have talked about this, and it's wonderful now this is coming up because it's important for humanity to be exposed to this information so they can differentiate our place, our position in this galaxy, and what our place is in the universe, in this holograph, because we have to define who we are, because everything we've been taught up until this moment has been complete fucking bullshit, he says. It's been bullshit, okay? That's the reason for this soft, slow rollout of this information. And there are a lot of other speakers that are really frustrated that we're not getting more and more information. He says we're not getting the big dumps. We're not getting, here comes the dump truck, kaboom. He says you have to understand humanity has been intentionally dumbed down. Both through education and through toxins, humanity has been dumbed down. And the white hats want this information out, but they understand and they're being guided by benevolent star nations who have seen this whole scenario before to give it to us in bits and pieces so that we don't go into overload and shut down. There's no time for that. We're on the clock. We have until 2030, March or April. I think of 2030 to have a specific amount of awareness of who we are and what we're about, okay? And our story. So we're burning daylight. And we have a lot of catching up to do. So please remember this. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And that's why this is being done in a very specific way. And this is just what it is. We are always free to do the research ourselves, to get ahead of disclosure, and many of us have done that. We're already there. We're ahead of disclosure. We're waiting for everybody else to catch up. But this is really important. This is about us as a species. Try not to be impatient, please. Please don't get impatient with the white hats. They're doing their best, the best they can, and at the same time, they're fighting a very, very dark enemy. He says, I mean, so dark, and they cannot live here with us. There cannot be any more compromises. They have to be removed from the equation. And I have said this over and over again, okay? There's psychological warfare going on both sides. Now, when you don't know who to believe, if you don't know what to believe, you take steps back. You get yourself grounded, you go into nature, you go into your meditation room, you go into a yoga class, whatever it is that you do. Play your instruments, play music, whatever it is that you do, and you go within. Because ultimately, that's what we all have to do anyways. Because this whole process is a spiritual renaissance. It's a spiritual revolution for mankind, for humanity. That's what this is about, and let's not lose sight of this, okay? This is about spiritual evolution, jumping into new levels of consciousness. 4th, 5th, some of you will even go to 6th, and the energies are backing that up. They are encouraging this. They are supporting this leap, this spiritual and evolutionary leap. So let's not lose sight of that. It's not about this side or that side. It's about us as a humanity. But there are things we all need to know about, obviously. It's sometimes difficult. He says, I haven't looked at the questions, but I have looked at the chat, the Knights of Terra, and I'm aware there are researchers, remote viewers of known stature that have had used their talents and their techniques and have taken a position. So I'm going to re-clarify the position I have on this and what the A's have shared. Now, there are many people who feel there are regressive extraterrestrials in our atmosphere and are still controlling and manipulating everything that's going on here on the surface. So I'm going to approach it this way. If that were so, if nothing had changed, then I would have to ask you, why then, if they had absolute control of us, why would they totally out themselves? Why would they totally out the deep state? The Illuminati, the pedophilia, the adrenochrome, the human harvesting, the human trafficking, the trafficking of us off world, them feeding off of us. Why would they out themselves on everything? Why would they let us in on that and let us know this? Does it in fact solidify their position? Would it solidify their position as our rulers? No, of course not. They would never ever do anything like that, because the only thing they want is power and control. Now, some people say wealth. Well, they print the money. They don't need the wealth. They just print the money. They wanted power and they wanted control. That's why this Orion system is here and has been here for thousands of years on the surface, for the accumulation of power and to have absolute control. Why would they out themselves if this narrative were true? Because it's not true. Not true. We have some hybrids who are being hunted as we speak, and they're being dealt with a little bit differently because they have human mothers. And I don't know how that's going to turn out for them. I don't know. This has been going on for a very long time, very, very long time. Do you remember the stories about Dulce? Do you remember our military teams going in there? And there's even video footage of this, of the teams who went on base into Dulce, in New Mexico. And you see the women and the children in cages, and you see the vats of body parts and the Tao, the Nabu, putting their hand in there and smearing it on their bodies and their arms so that they would absorb nutrients through their skin. Okay? That's adrenochrome. The damn reptilians brought that shit, brought their whole concept. They brought this thing to Earth because this is something they've been doing since the Lyran Wars with humans. Bastards, right? They're bastards. That's how far back it goes. It may even go back to wherever they came from. I don't have that piece of information. Sorry for the background noise. I've got an obsessive compulsive neighbor across the street who is constantly blowing leaves with his leaf blower. Drives me crazy. Drives me crazy. Oh my gosh. So hopefully you can hear me. Okay, but ladies and gentlemen, it ends here. It ends here. All that stuff, and you know the rollout, the disclosure of what's been going on with the kids, the movies that are coming out, the documentaries coming out. This has to end here and now, because this is us. This is being done to us. There is no future for us if this continues. Zero. So everybody has to get behind this. And those who are in denial, it isn't happening, more and more information will be coming forward, especially the videos from Epstein Island, the videos of Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin and other stuff, a lot of other stuff. Not all of it, but it's coming, all right? It's coming because it has to. It has to, because we have to come together. We just have to come together, and we will. We will come together, and it's important to know this type of movement, how it got here, who brought it here, why they brought it here, and why they did what they did to humanity and dumbing us down, separating us, making sure we would continuously war against each other, that we could not band together. The reasons for that are incredibly specific and incredibly liberating for humanity because of who we are, and I will come to that shortly. There are multiple AI systems at work here, okay? We have the Black Hat system, which was brought here by the Orion Group. Components of it are still being run by the Deep State or the Dark Illuminati. Another AI system, which was given to Solar Warden, our military, by benevolent star nations. AI is very useful. However, it's completely dangerous if it's unleashed. So it should never be unleashed because it's not something we know enough about and are smart enough to know how to put it back in the bottle once it's been unleashed. These are all growing pains, okay? These are all light and dark frequencies. Now, the warriors that are here on the planet that are awake and awakening are basically the old souls. All of you listening, old souls, we are old souls. Those of us, the elders, those of us who came in very, very strong soul groups that have had multiple lifetimes, not just on Earth, but also on other missions, such as Black League and other war fronts, dealing with this dark element that has run through our galaxy. We then have the system busters, the younger groups, the younger soul groups that are coming in and are now here, who have had maybe 1 or 2 lifetimes on Earth, haven't had a lot of experience in this type of battlefields, but have come in a very, very specific, with very, very specific talents, techniques, spiritual gifts, who are now waking up, or I should say are awake, but are finding their own legs to stand on. In other words, they're eliminating their own personal fears and are now coming forward to stand on their own 2 legs. To basically assist the old guard, the warriors, the knights, the older knights who've been holding the fort down until they wake up. And then what we have are the kids being born now, those under age 10. These are the children of the light. These are children that are directly coming from source. It is their frequency that has not only grounded the light here and the evolutionary 4th, 5th, and 6th density frequencies here on this planet now, but it's also these kids. We've got to do everything we can to protect them because they're the change. That's why the Deep State, the Cabal, the Dark Illuminati have targeted the kids. That's why. The only thing they can do is traumatic or remove them from the picture, and this cannot ever be allowed to happen. I'm going to pause my video for a second while this guy stops blowing his leaves. So let me pause this. All right. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is why I need land. I need land away from people because our neighborhood used to be really quiet when we first moved in. And then you get people in here now that are constantly mowing their lawn. It's freaking October. It's cold outside. And this guy's always outside, making noise at early in the morning. It's not early in the morning anymore. It's afternoon now, but he was up at before 8 o'clock this morning doing his leaves. He's definitely OCD. Let's just put it that way. And I don't really like him as a person because he yells at his kids all the time. Literally yells at the top of his lungs at his children. It's very sad. It's very sad. So, anyway, I'm sorry. Let me move on. Alex says, we have got to come together now and understand what's been going on for centuries here. And I'm just going to say this flat out. These people cannot be rehabilitated. They need to be removed from the equation because once the frequency gets to a specific place, They cannot even be here anyways. They can't share this physical space with us. They are going to be removed one way or another. But we have to show some parental guardianship. We do. I have said this over and over and over again. The things that we do now sets the foundation for future generations. This is it. We are there. Now, the white hats can do so much, and what they have already accomplished is profound, and you will know it once all of this comes out, once this has all been revealed. And he kind of chuckles and he says, but it's us. It's humanity. Says that has to take over. We have to take the management and the leadership of our civilization over. It still falls back on us, and we absolutely have it within us. There's no question. This is why America as a nation is so important, because it was the first true nation to be founded on self-rule, where the people would rule. There hasn't been another nation like this ever, ever. This is where us as humanity would rule ourselves and manage our own governments, elect the people we wanted to represent us, and yes, that got compromised because we weren't paying attention. Yes, there was dastardly things going on in the background that we just simply didn't know and understand, but that's no longer an excuse, okay? Now that it's coming to light, now that we're becoming aware of it, we need as a race to step up and make changes. We have to take responsibility for ourselves, for our nations, for the world, and become this role of leaders that the A's have talked about forever, so that other star nations are talking about, because we're not just humans. We are not just bodysuits, ladies and gentlemen. We are very old souls that belong to very ancient soul groups that have fallen out of time, out of a higher dimensional realm, to come down to create a shift, to create a vortex of light that would change the frequency of our galaxy. Ooh, I'm getting chills. Spiral it up instead of spiraling it down. We're old souls that don't age, that live beyond the physical bodies, that we borrow for specific missions. You have to know this. You have to remember this when we get overwhelmed with media news and false flags. You have to remember, we all have to remember who we truly are. And it isn't just this, okay? Is it just this? One of the things that's being said is that the regressive groups that are still here, which are not, is that they are putting pressure on all of the world's governments to allow them to give these regressive groups permission to take as many humans as they want forever, in perpetuity. Let's be perfectly clear about something. He says, there is not a government on this planet that is legitimate. Not one. Every single one of them has been compromised. They have been bought and paid for. Do you understand? There is no negotiating with anybody. Not happening. Not happening. It says, arr. He was so mad. Arr. It's just not happening. Just look around and observe everything. All of the changes that have already occurred, all of the information that's coming out, and go within and see. I'm not an authority. No one here is an authority. No one has all the pieces of the puzzle, because they'd be dead. And he just kind of giggles. He says, they'd be dead. We have boots on the ground that are here to assist. We have Solar Warden. We have meetings that are going on in Ganymede. And then you have the moon of Saturn, Mimas. You have all these things going on that have nothing to do with darkness, that have nothing to do with enslaving humanity. There would be no purpose in sharing all this information with us if that's where they wanted us to be. It's and it's obviously not. There's no negotiating humanity. Humanity is being freed so that we can stand on our own. It will take some time. It's a growth process. And in order for us to get there, we have to understand what's been happening all this time. We are living under a galactic guardianship, and they're not negotiating us with Orion, with the reptilians. None of that's happening. So, but again, you have to go within and see how that feels for you. And again, the whole purpose is for us to get our own answers. If you're going to become a leader, a sovereign individual, physical soul being on this planet, you have got to empower yourselves with whatever it takes for you to get your own information. You don't need Collier to get your own information. You don't need anybody to get your own information to verify it. We will all get to that place where we will just know. It says where we'll just know. Because we're in the age of knowing, not believing. We're in the age of knowing, which is the age of Aquarius. Okay? It says you will know what you know, and you will know that it's true. What you're witnessing here, what the topic is, the greatest show on earth. This is a really big deal, guys. This is a really, really big deal. That's why the solar system is so crowded, because it's a really big deal. We're going to get through this. We absolutely are, unless we ourselves sabotage it. And I'm sure that's where the dark side wants to go with this. You know, let's continue to keep them doubting themselves. Let's make sure they do not empower themselves. They will implode on themselves because we've convinced them to follow orders, follow direction, to do as we say, to be sheep instead of lions. That's kind of where we are right now, he says, is that crucible point where, you know, do we empower ourselves? Do we become a lion? Or do we think we're going to be safe remaining one of the sheep? No, you'll never be safe as one of the sheep, okay, ever. Sheep are fleeced, and you've been fleeced more times than you know. We're at that point now where humanity has to make this shift. Again, there's not a single legitimate government on this planet. They all need to be replaced because they've all been compromised on some level. And if you can't see that here in the United States, then wow, I don't know what to tell you. But one way or another, everybody is going to see the truth. What they do with it is entirely up to them. But if we don't continue to raise our frequency and to move forward, to graduate, to embrace the change, to embrace our spiritual selves, then you will not be able to maintain your physical self in this frequency because the frequency's rising. It's not going to come down anymore. It's going to continue to rise. This isn't a threat. This is just the way it is. If you want to get to fourth density, do you think you're going to get there in a third density body? Do you think your third density body can exist in the fourth dimensional space? No, they're completely different frequencies. So if you want to go from here to there, you have to consciously begin the process of raising your own frequency. And there's many ways to do it. There's many books, many videos, many YouTubes. You just have to make the decision to do it. We all do. And we're coming to this place. We're definitely coming to this place where decisions have to be made individually. He says the kids know. The kids will get it long before their parents. They will. But they need protection. They need guardians through this process because we still have hunters on this planet that are targeting children, and this cannot be allowed. This absolutely cannot be allowed. He says, okay, and in the state of Wisconsin, there are people who went through the 2008-2009 banking crisis, and they realized that they could not narrow down who had actual legal titles to their property because contracts had been sold back and forth all over the place multiple times, and the bank that was repossessing or moving forward to repossess didn't even have the local title to the property or legal title to the property. Bastards. Yet they were doing it anyway because they held a note. They didn't have legal title to the property. They're still doing it. So these folks continued to follow the money, to follow the paper trail. And what they discovered was that once it got to the Federal Reserve, the title, it then was given to a specific family in the United Kingdom. So the Federal Reserve, which we know is a private banking cartel, was foreclosing on the United States of America. And the reason they could do that was because our currency was not ours. We were renting it. And I've spoken about this before. We were renting a private currency and we were paying interest on that currency when we used or borrowed it. And the interest was never created, so there was no way to pay it back. We would have to continue to borrow more money because there was no way to pay off the interest. Now, there's no more Federal Reserve. As you can tell from the debt clock, because it says something totally different now, right? If you watch that, it's wonderful to see what new things pop up on the debt clock. The name still exists, but it's actually the U.S. Treasury now. All of this debt, all of the assets that belong to the Fed and belong to the shareholders and the banks that were part of the Federal Reserve System. So let me explain this to you. There are at least 9 banks, 7 which are foreign, 2 that are here in the United States. Those banks owned assets, massive amounts of assets. The shareholders and board members of those 9 banks also have massive assets in the bankruptcy of the Federal Reserve. All those assets of the Fed and banks, shareholders, and board members will be part of Lobster to be auctioned off and sold. All gone, done. Lobster is a part of a cryptocurrency, I believe. Says the U.S., the Republic of the United States of America starts brand new because it wasn't our debt. It was their debt, okay? Because it was all based on fraud. Now, the reason we haven't seen a total collapse is behind the scenes. The quantum financial system is running. The Republic is being established and has been established, an asset-backed currency which has not been made public yet, called the United States Note, is trading behind the scenes. Who's it trading with? That's my question. It's real. It does exist. The assets to the United States are stunning, absolutely stunning. We have millions of tons of gold that are still in the ground and that are verified. We have more oil than Saudi Arabia and the Middle East combined. I did not know that. That's very interesting to me. We have enough natural gas for 250 plus years. We could supply the entire world with natural gas. Wow. Wow. We have the greatest farmers in the world. They are just, there are just so many things. So when you hear we are going to come back, you have to know how true that is. This is all going to be unveiled and revealed to you all in time. But they do not want us to look beyond what's immediately in front of us because we are so easily distracted, which is why they've been able to get away with this shit for so long here in the United States, because they distract us. The white hats, they want us to see what's directly in front of us so that we understand step by step by step exactly how we were conquered, how we were overthrown, so that when they undo all the pieces of the puzzle, we truly understand what has happened. We just can't go from A to Z. We will miss everything in the middle and have absolutely no knowledge of it. And we won't remain free that way. The only way we will remain free, and so will the rest of the world, is by seeing piece by piece by piece how we were all captured. In that analogy, it's kind of like, to me, it's like a parent and a child. And when the child doesn't understand something, you don't just tell it no, you explain why they can't do it. And a lot of parents, I see that they just tell them, no, don't do that, blah, 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 and they yell back at their child when they could just easily like look them in the face and say, this is why you don't do this, because you're going to get hurt, or you're going. Children need that explanation. It's the same thing. We need to understand what happened and how we can fix it. Says, now the religion piece is huge because it's bringing in the extraterrestrials. It's bringing in the families. It's bringing in the family feuds among extraterrestrial tribes, and how we were used and manipulated to fight their battles, and how relevant that is for the last 400 to 500 years on this planet. There's a real specific reason, okay? And I know it's tough. We all know it's tough, you know. He says we're all living week to week. I mean, you go to the grocery store, he says, and you spend $600 and you come home and you're like, it doesn't even fill your fridge. It's sad. It's really, really sad. $100 to fill up a gas tank. You can't go anywhere, you know? And this was all a manipulation, all right? This was all the deep state. This was all manipulation. Please pay attention. There's a reason that you're here now. There's a reason you're being asked to pay attention. There's a reason for the way you're being shown the hypocrisy. Because we're in school, we're learning all this as we go so we can graduate, right? It says you're being, okay, the light and the dark. There's a very specific reason you're being shown this. There's a very specific reason for the intel drops, for the comms. The way this all came down on this is the way that it's being unfolded in front of you. What we learn here, we write about, we talk about, and we pass on to the future generations, okay? For those of us who are Americans, well, actually, it doesn't matter. For those of us who are the elders, and I've said this before, you are forefathers and foremothers of your new nations now, because not a single government's legit. They have all been compromised. They may be unrolling the corruption in these countries, but none of them are legitimately elected people. They are caretakers for new elections so that all of this shit can be cleaned up so that you, as individual sovereign citizens of your countries, can truly vote or replace the people who are in power now with those who you really trust. This has to happen. He says this has to happen because ultimately we are going to be asked to come to the galactic table as a sovereign, benevolent planet. Good intentions don't matter here. Follow through is what matters here. Walking the talk is what matters here. There are still a lot of people spreading a lot of fear because they don't understand. If they truly understood, they wouldn't be in fear. They would understand what's going on here, okay? It says, yeah, there's FFs, I'll just say that, you know. Yeah. But that doesn't mean there's a failure point. That does not mean anywhere along this plan there's a failure point. It just still means we've got some dirt bags to get rid of. We still have some house cleaning. And he says, it just takes time. It just takes time. It can't happen overnight. This may take several years, many years, we don't know, because this operation is being done clandestinely in the background. We do not know how far along the White Hats are, that Solar Warden is, that Space Force is. We just don't know. Because this war is against an enemy that is just so diabolical that they have absolutely no qualms about taking out all of humanity just so they can win. I totally get this. He says, so the hemming and hawing, he says, I get it. But that doesn't mean you have a doubt about what's getting cast down here because you simply don't know. You don't understand. Even your whistleblowers may not understand. They may only have one little piece of the puzzle. They don't get the whole plan. Because those at the top, they are holding their cards very close. Because this has to be successful, or there is no future for humanity. And humanity is going to have to make changes, dramatic changes, and how it lives and how it thinks and how it not only cares for itself but for others. And I have absolutely no doubt that we will make that jump, that we can make that jump. We just need to know the score, and right now we don't know the full score, but it's coming. It is in fact coming. Just look at the slow disclosure. Look at the things that are coming to the forefront. There's a very specific reason it's coming out that way, that these pieces are coming out now and how they're being dropped. And above all, when you realize that biblical texts have been altered over and over and over again and have been written over and over and over again, that does not mean there is not a creator, because there is a creator. There is absolutely is a great spirit. There is source. Aliens did not create the holograph we call our universe or any other holographic universe. They did not. We inhabited it, but we didn't create it. Only source does that. Have faith. Don't lose faith, okay? Great things are coming. But so is some very, very tough groups are also coming, and it's going to be a shock to a lot of people because most people cannot simply comprehend this level of evil, and they're going to be shocked. He says, I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked. And I've said this before in past videos, like even those of us that have known what's been going on for many, many, many years, like, and we think we know everything, we're going to be shocked. We're all going to be shocked still, too. He says, okay, the warriors, the elders, the knights, the old guard, that's us. That's us. The system busters, the kids, the middle-aged generations that are here now, and then the children of light, those that are just coming in under age 10 and those continuing to come in. We have to protect these guys. That's our job, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. People are still disappearing, but I don't believe for a second they're going off world unless they're hybrids. They may be taken off world. I believe that the people who are disappearing are going to military prisons. They are being removed because they are part of the dark agenda, part of the dark equation, and that's what I know. And ladies and gentlemen, come hell or high water, that's what I'm sticking with. That's my truth. That's what I know to be true. All right. Says, I mean, there's so much out there and it's all over the place. Pay attention to it or not. That's your decision, but go within. Learn to trust your intuition, especially you men. It's time to learn to trust your intuition. Your head's not always right, but your heart always knows what's real. Your gut, your first instinct, because it's usually almost always right. If you overthink it to death, you will find yourself wandering in the woods, and then you're lost. And then you're going to have to ask for directions, guys. And guys, we hate asking for directions, don't we? And he laughs. He says, so be vulnerable. Allow yourself to be intuitive, okay? It's necessary. It's all about balance. It's all about balance. And humanity's been through a lot. We have been through a lot. But it's time to step out of the pain. It's time to take one or two steps away from the pain to see how you feel. How do you feel when you're not in pain? How do you feel when you're not suffering? Can you imagine what it's like not to suffer? It's time to have those conversations with yourself, okay? It's okay, I guess there's no questions, right? And he laughs. I get a pass. No? No questions today? This one was a half an hour shorter, this webinar, so it's not as long. It's good for me, transcribing. First question, Alex, do you know if there are advanced civilizations in Inner Earth who may be working with the Alliance? Has Mornay ever mentioned that the A's or Galactic Federation, ... basically. He says, yes, there are advanced civilizations that are working with the Alliance. They are working from the inside out. We are working from the outside in. Yes, but that is not my lane to discuss. If I were you, I would pay attention to Dr. Sala's relationship with special forces groups, space forces groups that are sharing information with him directly. There's already been self-disclosure about the groups that are inside the Earth, not just the ant people, but other groups. That's their lane, and you're going to want to pay attention there. He says, my understanding is because that's when the information's going to come where it's going to come from, okay? And it's very, very valid and it's very, very solid. We've never been alone. If we had been, we'd all be gone by now. So we've had guardians, both from inside and from boots on the ground. We've had guardians helping us, protecting us, doing what they could to guide us, to give us hope, to give us light, to give us knowledge until we were ready and until a plan could be put into motion to remove the regressives without losing humanity. It's complicated, guys. It's been really complicated, but we're almost there. We are almost there. Don't give up. Don't give up. Absolutely don't give up. Don't fall into despair. That's what they want. Don't do it. Okay? There's nothing back there for us. It only feeds them. We have every reason to be hopeful. Every reason to be. He says, listen, I want to make something very clear. The benevolence is here to assist. They are not saviors, okay? They have learned a lot. They have made lots of their own mistakes as well. Civilizations do that. That's how they grow. That's how they evolve. That's how they mature. And that's the only way to make sure what works and what doesn't is by making mistakes and surviving them. Their job is to be a mentor, not a savior. We need to save ourselves. We need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We need to understand that we are in control of our own destiny. Once we figure out what's going on, and that's what the mentoring is about, we're the ones who are going to do the heavy lifting. Our humanity lifting. Then our humanity parents, any worshiping is source. And as the A's have said, the worship of the isness, which is source, is the creation of ourselves, okay? Because we're one of the same. Let's not forget that. Let's keep things in perspective. We have to keep things in perspective. Seriously. Next question. Are the A's pleased with humanity's progress? Alex says, yeah. We are coming along. They knew we could. They always knew we could. but they needed other races that have had long-term physical relationships with us. Those lines that had very strong genetic links to us to step forward. So in the background, what they've done is they've encouraged these other star nations to become more involved and to step forward. And their assistance was not only guidance, but help with implementation of strategies that would make this work. And those races that have stepped forward and will step forward when it's time, such as the Arcturians, the Syrians, the Inner Earth races, the Palladian groups, and some of the other groups, the Procyon and other groups that are here helping and assisting, whether it's Ganymede or Mimas, even some of the Anunnaki, some of the benevolent Anunnaki groups, Orion groups. There's some benevolent Orion groups that can now assist without fear of being destroyed themselves, that have been vetted, okay? They've been vetted. They deserve a great deal of thanks and appreciation as well, and humanity will have those opportunities to thank them for the assistance and the mentoring. But understand, the mentoring will at some point end, and we will be expected to stand on our own. That's how this works. So that's the ultimate goal here, is for us to stand on our own and to become part of the galactic community. So they're not saviors. So don't give your power away, because they'll be back. It's not what they want. This is not what this is about, okay? So just resign ourselves. Let's be resolute that this is about us, not about them. This is about us. So we have to keep focused on that it's about us. Okay, and then he says, ladies and gentlemen, we live in extraordinary times. Don't ever give up hope, okay? We're going to be okay. We truly are going to be okay. It's just many of us didn't see this coming, and many of us have been so drawn into the drama of survival here on this planet that we forgot our missions, and we're only now reawakening to what that mission is and why we came here in the first place. I mean, this is not a vacation spot. He says, let's be clear, okay? This is not a vacation spot. So you have to be very specific in why you want to be here, okay? And now that we're becoming clear about what that is about, I think we're good. Things are moving the way they're meant to. We've lost some viewership, and James is probably going to be upset that I'm even going to say anything. He's going to be sending out a query on it. I ask that you be heartfelt and you be true or honest about the reasons, and if it's me, I would want to know why, okay? Because I don't know everything. I never did. I've made lots of mistakes, and some people say, well, geez, you got all this wisdom. Well, I've earned the wisdom by all the mistakes I've made. If you don't learn by your mistakes, you keep making them over and over again. And each time you make them over again, it becomes more painful. He says, first it's the stick, then it's the 2x4, then it's the 4x4. Then the railroad ties come out. He says, man, those hurt. Okay. And I know some of you can identify with that. He says, anyways, thank you so much. Next week is the Q&A, but before the Q&A, I will be addressing the men and information about what's coming and what is expected of us, and hopefully it will be encouragement. And this is from Mornay, so I'm just giving you a heads up about being protectors, guardians, and what our role was always meant to be. So it's a reminder, and ladies and gents, God bless and thank you for supporting our little webinar. You're the best. I just love you guys, and thank you for all the incredible birthday wishes. Guys, we'll see you next week. So that's the end. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up. Um, Thank you so much for watching. I know a lot of people can't afford even to watch the replays of his webinar, so my channel does transcribe them. Like I said, I don't do all the questions and answers all the time because a lot of it's repetitive. So, and I don't do the question and answer webinars anymore because there's just too many. There's just way too many, and I would be behind a whole year. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my family. Thank you to my subscribers. Um, I'm sending a lot of light and love to all of you, and I know we're in really, really hard times right now. You know, we're looking at next week, going into November, and man, there's a lot of us who are hurting financially right now. You know, grocery stores, yeah, you can't even fill up your cart for less than $250. I mean, I get half a cart and that's what it costs me. And that's for 3 people in my family. So I can't imagine having a bigger family and having to support families. Yeah, I mean, everything's going up. I just found out that apparently over the last 2 years, my mortgage company has been paying my homeowner's insurance. Uh, and farmers never told me they were getting double payments because they were directly withdrawing from my bank account on a monthly basis. And so I just found out my mortgage has been paying them. So they've been getting double payments and haven't told me. And I'm not the only one. So I don't know if that's happening to any of you, but I've got a coworker who's going through the same thing too. And she's with a different company than we are. And it's happening to her too. I've got $5,000 worth of money I'm going to have to fight for to try and get back from farmers insurance because they screwed me over. And I don't know who made that. I don't know when this happened because we've been in this house 9 years and they've never taken it out of our escrow account. They just started doing that back in 2022, apparently. So I told them I never signed anything saying they were allowed to take that out of my escrow account. So I don't know how that happened. Happened all during COVID, didn't it? So I don't know if any of you are going through any of those there's a bunch of weird shit happening, and there's just a bunch of fraud going on with all these companies, and I'm just so sick of it. But, like I said, the only way I can make it through every day is to just take one day at a time. I try and ground myself. Um, yeah, I try to just not let it bother me. So I try to stay out of the drama. Sometimes it's hard, but we will get through this. We will get through this, and it's going to be so great on the other side. We will have a huge party, and it will be wonderful. It will just be wonderful. I'm going to travel a whole lot. I'm going on vacation for a long time. That's all I can say. So I love all of you. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Go support Alex on alexcollier.org or brighteon.com at Alex Collier Official 2. Support him and his people. You can get on Telegram. If you find the Knights of Terra, you have to have an invite, I guess, to get into the new Telegram page. But it's really interesting. There's a lot of good information on there. Everybody posts, but they've put it in a slow mode lately, and I don't know why. It's really frustrating. Um, but yeah, there's a lot that people share on there, many different subjects, so it's really cool. So anyway, thank you so much. I love all of you. I love my family. So say we all. And I will see you next time. Love you. Bye.